Hi, I'm Nick Gillespie with ReasonTV. Sitting in the offices of The Week, the news weekly that is all you need to know about everything that matters, with Bill Falk, the editor-in-chief of The Week, which started publishing 7 years ago. Who reads The Week?
Basically really busy people who want to be engaged and know what's going on but don't have an hour or two a day to devote to reading. So we, myself and my staff of 15 editors, read hundreds of newspapers, magazines, and websites every week and basically distill the best of what we find into these sort of cogent, pithy little articles.
Right.
Independent people tend to really enjoy our format because we're an opinion magazine, but we're not The Nation, sort of preaching to that audience of converted, or the Weekly Standard, preaching to that audience. So people that like the magazine tend to like to see both views in the same place and go, well, sometimes the liberals are right and sometimes the conservatives are right and sometimes they're both full of it. So we're really helping people make sense of the news. We're not in a news weekly format. You can no longer even, hope to tell people what happened. Because they're, in fact, daily newspapers can't do that anymore either.
How do you guys match up against a Time or a Newsweek? I mean, is it finished for them, or how is it finished for them?
Well, I think they're both still very excellent publications.
You don't really believe that, though, right?
No, I do. I admire what they do, but I do think they're in a bad place in that it's unclear what their role is in this sort of new media landscape, and they're talking about the fact openly, their editors, about the fact that they need to reposition themselves. I think they're kind of, from my perspective, they're fishing around to try to figure out exactly what their new role is going to be, and sometimes it's trend stories, sometimes it's oh my aching knees, a cover story on osteoarthritis for the baby boom readers.
You can never have enough stories about why the dinosaurs died.
Why the dinosaurs died, and who was Jesus really, exactly. And they are, a little lost, I think, honestly. And it's interesting to watch whether they can sort of recreate what their role is going to be. I think, again, almost a little bit by happenstance, it wasn't designed this way originally, but The Week really is just well suited for this time when people are really busy. I mean, no one works 8 hours anymore and comes home and puts their feet up on the table and says, well, it's time to read a 20,000-word takeout on something. I mean, people don't tend to live that way. They're consuming media sort of in fits and starts and gulps here and there. And at the end of the week, we kind of round it all up and say, look, if you miss things, here's the news, here's the health and science, here's the cultural stuff, here's the movie reviews, not just what we think about the latest movies, but here's 3 or 4 reviewers on each movie.
Are these good times or bad times for media? Are we getting good news? I mean, is media thriving? Is it dying?
Well, these are interesting times for media, and as the Chinese curse goes, may you live in interesting times. I mean, it's a time of great change and ferment, and there are many wonderful things being born, and there are things that are dying, and it is clearly, a revolutionary time, and the web is having a gigantic impact on media. I think in the end, when it all shakes out, it'll probably be a good thing for media. If the New York Times manages to create a business model whereby they don't have to cut down trees and ship them 3,000 miles in every direction, they'll eliminate 40–50% of their costs. So, but newspapers and to some extent magazines have not yet figured out a business model whereby you're giving away the product on the web for free and enough advertising comes in to sustain that. I think quality publications that are still delivering what people need will figure out business models that will make that work. So I think it's still really about the content of what you've got.
Content is always king.
Content is king.
How do your readers respond to foreign stories, or stories about foreign policy or about foreign countries?
It's a big part of our readership, and it's actually one of the things that distinguishes us, I think, from some of the other news magazines. We have an interesting format in that, again, The Week we don't have reporters covering our own stories, and we borrow material from other publications. So our foreign coverage consists of our listening in, essentially, on what foreign newspapers and magazines and websites are saying in those countries. And we have this very gifted foreign editor, Susan Caskey, who speaks 4 languages. And we translate, with the help of stringers and other things, these newspapers into English. And we have a feature called How They See Us that runs every week, where it's basically a conversation about America or American foreign policy as conducted abroad.
That's certainly one of the most transformational, I think, elements of new media. It's just the accessibility of foreign publications, even just English, British newspapers. But then when you're looking at the Al Jazeeras of the world and whatnot.
And as you know, the Guardian and BBC and all those sites, get huge traffic in the United States. People are listening in. What are
the 3 news sources that you personally find you can't live without?
Sure. Well, I have to say, I really think the Washington Post, to me, is now the best newspaper in this country, and their website is actually excellent also. They have a lot of additional content on there. I think they're a newspaper that's adapting to the web very well, with a lot of blogs and a lot of, sort of very quick response. And I just find their coverage to be the most balanced and incisive. I enjoy Slate quite a bit, actually, as a website. I think they do a really interesting job of thinking through some of the issues, and I think there's some really good writers on that site, very good writers, and I think they present things really well. And I actually do like the BBC website quite a bit, because, again, you get a perspective on the news there that I think is very useful.
Where is the energy in American society? I mean, is it in politics? Is it in culture? Is it in business? Is it a mix of all of these things?
Well, certainly, I think it is a mix. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of energy in all of these areas right now. We're still a very dynamic society, even though we have our problems. I mean, I have to say, there's more energy in politics right now than I can recall probably since the 60s. And
what does that mean? I mean, there's more energy. It's just...
Well, I think to some extent politics has become a form of entertainment in our culture. It's interesting. I mean, this isn't universal, but there is a large segment of the population that follows politics the way some people follow Survivor or American Idol. It's like, I mean, if you sort of want to look at it in a somewhat simplistic way, the primaries have been who's getting kicked off the island.
Would you characterize yourself as Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative?
I have to say I've really become a kind of middle of the roader. I really have. I mean, I think, and I think editing the week has made me more so, because you become very aware of the fact that nobody has a sort of monopoly on wisdom, and that...
I like to think that nobody has a monopoly on stupidity.
And nobody has a monopoly on stupidity either. No, that's absolutely true. And if you look back historically, I mean, both parties have been egregiously wrong about many, many things. And I think, the dialectical process of banging 2 ideas together produces a lot more wisdom than one idea, just basically following one idea down the track and often over a cliff. Because I think any ideology needs to be constantly sort of tested against reality, and that you need to make course corrections constantly, because the world is an enormously complex place, and any simplistic ideology, I think, inevitably runs into circumstances where it doesn't apply.